Is it hard for you to remember vocabulary? You can never retrieve it when you're speaking. It's so hard to remember. You studied for a day and the next day you just can't remember what you studied the day before. That happens because you never provide a meaningful context to your brain. You got to insert whatever it is that you're learning into a meaningful context so your brain can connect to it. You provide connections, ways to connect, and so it's easier to remember later on. So I'm going to give you today like a short story just to connect 10 idioms within a short story. We're going to come up with a story, silly story, just to provide meaningful context so it's easier for you to remember. Without further ado, let's get into it. As men, we never like to admit that we are lost. Whenever you're driving and we are lost, we don't know where we're going, we're confused about where we are, we never want to admit, to say, oh, it's all right, I really don't know where I'm going. We should get directions, you should get help. It usually takes hours or a lot of time for us to decide and say, yeah, righto, let's pull over, let's move to the side of the road and ask for help. Well, a friend of mine was telling me the other day that she and her husband, they decided to go out on a trip. They had some cowboy hats. They fixed up their cowboy hats, put it on, repaired it. It was worn out. They fixed it up, put on their cowboy hats, and went on a trip. They went on a trip, everything was fine, and then she started to notice that it was taking longer than they had planned. So she brought up the fact that they were lost. She was certain that they were lost, but her husband didn't want to admit it. Like I said, he lost his temper. He got angry at her. He was like, no, we are not lost. I know where we are going. And she didn't want to fight. And she just said, all right then, carry on. By all means, encouraging him to carry on, keep doing what you're doing. So by all means, carry on, keep doing, keep going. I'm not going to interfere. I've already said what I think. All right. So then they kept on going, kept on driving, and then another 30 minutes into it, and they were nowhere. And then she really knew that it was high time they did something. They had to do something. And then she mentioned it again, and he kind of agreed to pull over, but he drew the line at asking for help. He said, I'm going to pull over. I'm going to stop. But just because we are running low on fuel, so I'm going to refuel the car. But I'm not going to ask for help. He drew the line at asking for help. And she agreed. She said, yep, no problem. We can stop. And you don't have to ask for direction. You go refuel the car, that'll be fine. So she stopped. She got out of the car herself. And by chance, she saw an old man. So she got out of the car, walked towards that old man. She was going to ask him for directions without her husband knowing. But when she got close to the man, the old man smiled and he said, the map is wrong. And she was like, what? It's Highway 23, not 32. The map is wrong. And she was like, how did you know? How did you know I was going to ask for help? We were lost. How did you know we were lost? And he was like, you are the 5th woman whose husband has gotten lost in the last hour. So he knew it. Everyone was coming, pulling over at the gas station and asking for directions because the map was wrong. So that was it. 10 phrasal verbs, 10 idioms, 10 vocabulary in a short story. Try retelling the story. I bet you can. It's much easier. I'm pretty sure you're going to remember all of this if you go over a few times. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.